Uh, all right, there we go. Okay. Good morning, everyone. I am Delegate Lily Chi, Chair of the Montgomery County House Delegation's Economic Development Committee, and I want to welcome all of you to our briefing number one for this legislative season. I want to thank you all for joining us and want to recognize my colleagues, starting with the Vice Chair of the Economic Development Committee, Delegate Jared Solomon. And I will turn to him for some brief remarks later. But let me first recognize some of my colleagues, legislators, who are joining us for this briefing. I will first start with our committee members. The Delegate Leslie Lopez is here, as well as Delegate Ariana Kelly. I also see Delegate Kaiser, who chairs the Ways and Means Committee, which is strategically super important to economic development, and Delegate Pam Queen from Montgomery County, who also serves our Economic Matters Committee with me. So thank you for joining me. Did I miss anyone? Okay, we hope to have a few more joining us. I want to start by saying the reason we decided to have two separate briefings is because last year's format worked very well. Our Montgomery County economy is complex. We have innovation tech-led economic development as economy, as well as locally serving businesses. They have different needs, they have different challenges. It's important for legislators to understand where our economy is going and how we are doing, and how we can help, most importantly. So I want to take a moment to thank Gigi, the President and CEO of the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce, and Ben Wu, President and CEO of the Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation, as well as their wonderful staffers. Bill Tompkins is here, and Brian Levin, who is new to the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce, for being proactive, reaching out and engaging other partners like Dr. Martin Rosendale, who has been a really important voice for life sciences and technology industries. So we thought we'll just follow last year's winning formula and have two separate briefings, so that will give us enough time to not only learn, but ask questions, okay? So I want to start by turning it over to Gigi. I hope everybody has got the agenda in front of you. We have a packed agenda. I should also add that I want to take a moment to thank our business partners for joining us. Mr. Ahmed Ali is the chief of the company he founded, which is a veteran-owned and minority-owned businesses, which is very successful, Tista Science and Technology Corporation. He has always taken the time to serve the public by adding important small business voices to many discussions. So thank you for your service. And I am still remembering how you waited 5 hours for an ECM hearing for that 3 minutes. So driving all the way to Annapolis, and I will never forget that. Thank you so much. And also I understand Jeff Galvin, who is my constituent, whose company is in the Shady Grove Life Sciences Park. American Gene Technologies will be joining us to discuss his success and about oncology research and how we can help. So with a packed agenda, let's roll. Gigi, it's
Great. Thank you. Good morning, Delegation Chair Chi and Vice Chair Solomon and members of the Montgomery County House Delegation. I'm Gigi Godwin, President and CEO of the Montgomery County Chamber of Commerce, and the Chamber is honored to have our partners with us today, Ben Wu and his incredible team from MCEDC, Marty Rosendale and his team presenting on behalf of the Maryland Tech Council. And we're continuing in our tradition, started 2 years ago, actually in person in Annapolis, and then virtually last year and again this year. We're pleased to be joining you this morning to discuss the exciting opportunities we have on our horizon, leveraging our assets to grow the innovation-focused economy of the future for the next generation of talent right here in Montgomery County. Yes, we do share, our organizations share a vision that innovation truly drives economic activity and job growth in our county and throughout the region. But first, I want to thank you. We all want to thank you, our Montgomery County delegation in Annapolis, for your support, especially during the last year and a half of the pandemic. This has been a very difficult time for many business sectors and our economy. But as we worked together over the past 18 months, you listened, you responded, thank you. And specific examples of your actions that helped our businesses include, these are just a few highlights: the stimulus funding for broadband expansion, expanding cybersecurity tax credit, expanding the Rise Zone program to support more cybersecurity and biotech companies, improvements to our small business innovation research and technology transfer incentive program, the job creation tax credit incentive for hiring veterans, allowing local jurisdictions like our county to authorize 2 additional years of off-premises sale of alcohol for restaurants and breweries. I personally believe that that alone helps stimulate many new technological advances in our county. And of course, thank you for approving funding for the Montgomery County Chamber Community Foundation's Veteran Institute for Procurement. That's our VIP program. Looking ahead and armed with fresh analysis from both the Tech Council's report, recently released report, and MCEDC's report, we now have the opportunity to build on our strengths and secure an economic future for our next generation of talent. According to Bloomberg Government, Montgomery County is #1 in the nation for health information companies that sell to the federal government, and #2 for all businesses that support the federal government in both civilian agencies and for the Department of Defense. This is no surprise, since we are the home of HHS and its agencies, NIH and FDA, and of course NOAA, NIST, NRC, NSA, so many other agencies who work closely with our federal contracting business community, driving marketplace growth in technology and advancement. So that we want you to be aware of how important federal contracting is, which is the reason we wanted Ahmed Ali to speak today, is that it makes a huge difference and is a huge driver of our economy here. So for this reason, we want you to be aware that we need to, as we're trying to bring our future growth from vision to reality, let's work together to avoid the unintended consequences that could slow that growth, impede that progress. For this reason, we do remain in support of a thorough examination of Maryland's tax structure and also the various paperwork, filing processes, all those they're necessary processes, but they're unnecessarily complex. These are things that we could work together to fix and improve just the desirability to be here and headquarter here in Montgomery County in Maryland. Together, we can work on these, and we need to also put solutions in place to invest in our transportation, communications, power grid, infrastructure, as well as frankly, other economic barriers to entry, including housing and childcare. The bottom line is we have great opportunities here. We have a huge federal contracting community driving innovation, and we want to remain competitive. We want to be more competitive because others want what we have. So with that, I'm going to stop, and I'm going to be very pleased to introduce our amazing guest speaker representing the Chamber today and his wonderful company. So it is a pleasure to introduce President and founder of TISTA Science and Technology Corporation, Ahmed Ali, who is also a Navy veteran. TISTA Science and Technology is a leader in government contracting, providing both professional services and IT support to federal agencies, and he's headquartered right here in Bethesda, Maryland. Frankly, I'm going to brag a bit. I'm very happy to report that most recently, TISTA won a 5-year, is this right? 5-year task contract valued at $733 million to support the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs. And I am proud to say that Ahmed's company is also a graduate of our Veteran Institute for Procurement program, and that Ahmed continues to support that program and also helps us as an instructor. He does so many things to help us. Ahmed is a passionate spokesperson for our veteran community as well as our federal contracting community and for small businesses who work with the federal government, driving technology and excellence and contributing to the success of our community. He's very invested in our community's future success. With that, I'm turning it over to Ahmed Ali.
Thank you, Gigi, and thank you to the delegates and everybody here today. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm very honored. So let me go ahead and start. So good morning. My name is Ahmed Ali, and I am the founder and president of TISTA Science and Technology Corporation. I am also a service-disabled U.S. military veteran, having served multiple tours overseas. Just a brief background on my company. TISTA is a cybersecurity and health IT-focused company We're performing 100% of our work with various federal government agencies. I founded TISTA in September 2005. We are headquartered in Rockville, Maryland, and also have offices in various states. We graduated from the SBA 8A program many years ago, and today we're a thriving large business. When I first started my company, I was a one-person company for several years. My first contract was $54,000, and today we have a run rate of close to $250 million annually. And just a few weeks ago, as Gigi indicated, we won our largest single award prime contract to date with the Department of Veterans Affairs, valued at over $730 million. By next year, we will have close to 2,000 full-time employees. And as a veteran, I'm extremely proud of having this opportunity to support our federal agencies while making a positive difference in the lives of our veterans, our employees, and to our community. So why did I decide to incorporate my company and our company in the state of Maryland? And why did I decide to establish our headquarters in Rockville, Maryland? Because Montgomery County in the state of Maryland is a great place for technology and innovation. Montgomery County has a tremendous talent pool and many exceptional companies who call this county and our state their home. As a federal government contractor headquartered here in Montgomery County, I firmly believe that it is our state policymakers to know that Maryland companies secure billions of dollars annually in federal contracts and are a major force in our economy. For example, according to usaspending.gov, the Department of Health and Human Services spent over $22 billion, and another agencies such as the Social Security Administration spent over $19 billion in federal prime contracts to companies here in Maryland. And just in Montgomery County, companies received approximately $16 billion in federal prime contracts over the trailing 12 months. A total amount of $91 billion was awarded with 335,381 prime contracts. As a technology company in the federal contracting space, federal spending is driving technology innovation. As we see larger and more established companies moving into Montgomery County, this in essence is encouraging small business owners to start their operations here in Montgomery County. As you consider policies that impact the business community and our ability to attract top talent, please consider that other states want what we have. Our neighboring states have various performance-based incentives for companies that locate or grow within their Commonwealth. I believe Maryland can and should outperform our neighboring states by providing more attractive performance-based incentives for companies locating within our state and within specifically Montgomery County. Corporate presence of just a few reputable companies opens the doors for other businesses to expand in our county, attracting new jobs, income, resources, and opportunities. This economic growth can provide more quality jobs by involving more professionals in the job market. Montgomery County should lead by example and never be in a position where we are following others. Montgomery County is a great place to live and a great place to operate a business. With our proximity to federal partners, a wide selection of new office spaces for companies to grow their staff, local government support resources for small business owners, access to innovation centers and incubators, a growing labor force, Montgomery County is able to recruit and access some of the best talent in our country. Thanks to rapidly advancing technology and also to the forces of social change in our society, our nation's workforce and companies now are even more mobile than ever before. This should also attract business owners and professionals to move to Montgomery County, where they can have access to many tax-based incentives and the many resources our county provides. The more we can attract new business owners to set up shop in Montgomery County, the stronger our workforce will be, the more tax revenue our county and our state will be able to generate. Maryland has great economic advantages for life sciences and technology companies, but needs to be more proactive in its competitiveness. As policymakers and government officials evaluate their incentives, I encourage you to consider how many of these factors have a positive influence on our county. When incentive spurs new business activity, it can have budget implications that go beyond the initial cost of programs. On the positive side, increased economic activity results in additional tax revenue. In addition, this increase of workforce population will also provide new job opportunities. It'll draw in additional population into our county, boosting demand for educational opportunities, government services such as transportation, public safety, and which will also make Montgomery County an even more exciting and thriving county to live in. So in summary, as our policymakers, I urge you to consider the impact of your decisions on our community's competitiveness and its ability to attract and retain the technology leaders of the future. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak here today.
Thank you very much, Ahmed, for speaking on behalf of our federal contracting community and our businesses. As we say at the Chamber, if you aren't a federal contractor, you're feeding them, you're doing their accounting, you're leasing space to them, and so many other things. So I want to thank you for that presentation. And that concludes the Chamber's aspect, our panel participation for the moment in terms of presentation, Madam Chair. And so I yield back to you to carry on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gigi. First of all, I want to thank Gigi for your very concise summary of the work that the legislature did last session or a couple sessions during the pandemic. It was really extraordinarily challenging, but I hope everyone would agree we did step up to do the best we could to support and sustain our business community. And I think the dividends will be paid off over the years, to contend the bleeding and retain them in Montgomery County and Maryland. And I think Ahmed made some incredible points, which is with all these assets and human capital, we really should be second to none. So, let's take a look at how we can take our game to the next level and not be complacent. So we heard you loud and clear. We have some time saved for discussion later, so we will have a chance to ask you some questions for some specific ideas. But at this point, I would like to turn it over to Ben Wu, and he will talk about the new economic advisory panel, which he's excited about.
Well, thank you, Delegate Chi, and also to the co-chair of the committee, Delegate Solomon. So I'm so pleased to be here with the Chamber of Commerce as well as with the Tech Council. Now, back when I first started, Delegate Corman asked me to address the General Assembly delegation back at the very beginning of the 2019 General Assembly session. And what I told Delegates Corman was that if we wanted me to talk about Montgomery County's economic future, that it really needs to be looked at from a holistic perspective, not just from the MCDC perspective, but also the great work that's being done with the Chamber of Commerce. And then also, because we're an innovation-led economy, that the Tech Council should also be part of that conversation, because this is a holistic approach. And also because at MCDC, I believe that our future for the organization as well as for the county is in partnerships and collaborations. And I wanted to underscore the partnership that we have with the Chamber of Commerce as well as with the Tech Council. So we gave that initial briefing at the very beginning of the 2019 session, unbeknownst to us that it would be cut short prematurely. And then how we did it again in 2020 under your leadership, Delegate Chi, to be able to give a set of briefings to talk about the impact of the economy based off of the pandemic. And so here we are again now as we're moving towards an economic recovery to once again brief the delegation. And we've taken great strides since the pandemic. We hit a record high in Montgomery County of 8.6% unemployment. We've since been able to reduce that by 3%, and we're in the 5% now, which is significant during the course of our steps that we've taken for economic recovery. But we still need to do much more. And as you have said, and as Ahmed has said, we need to step it up and be able to utilize all of our assets and to be able to seize the opportunities that we have. And so that's why I'm very pleased today to talk about the Economic Advisory Panel recommendations that were just released just yesterday. So I'm going to share my screen with everybody and to be able to talk a little bit about their report, Connecting the Dots, Accelerating Economic Growth in Montgomery County, Maryland. This report was created by the Economic Advisory Panel that was led by Norm Augustine, the former and retired chairman and CEO of Lockheed Martin, and then also Darian Pollard, who for 11 years was the president of Montgomery College, who's now currently the president over at Nevada State College. Dr. Pollard, even though she had transitioned over to Nevada, was so committed, as she said, her heart and soul still remains in Montgomery County. And so she insisted on continuing to be a part of it. And we appreciate so much both Norm and Darian's leadership. And because they're two revered and inspirational local visionaries, and they really gave it their dedication and leadership, and we're so appreciative of that. So at MCDC, we convened a Blue Ribbon Advisory Panel of Montgomery County executives to help shape consensus priorities as a spur to critical post-pandemic recovery. And we're committed to acting on the panel's recommendations, and we're pleased to be able to have the report launched in conjunction with the Washington Business Journal at an event yesterday. I've only been allotted a limited amount of time, so I do want to be able to allow for our other partners to be able to talk a little bit about what they're doing and the importance of their actions. So I'm going to quickly dash through these recommendations and so that we can spend as much time also in conversation with the delegation as well. So you've seen the membership roster, but let me tell you a little bit about the panel members collectively. There were 20 business people who have over 500 years of residency in Montgomery County, and they've held leadership positions in firms ranging from just a handful of people to over 180,000 employees, with revenues ranging from just a few million to $45 billion. And as a group, the panel members have conducted business in every state in the country and have made decisions about where they want to locate new businesses or how businesses could be expanded. So we gave the advisory panel a charge, and that was to create a roadmap of priorities that encourages stakeholders to take the deliberate steps needed so that we can continue to grow. We asked the panel to look at multiple reports of past recommendations, find common themes, and then realign for actions that can provide and create results. We wanted to have the panel to create a consensus towards a post-pandemic recovery. And we recognize that with all these surplus of strategies that are out there, sometimes it has created confusion about what the priorities should be, and as a result have helped to create a sense of inertia. So the recommendations that were made by the panel were 20 recommendations offered with 33 implementing actions, and then with 10 high priority recommendations in their 90-page report. And these recommendations, they were broken down by the panel into categories based on the 4 elements generally required to grow businesses: idea, knowledge, assets, human assets, financial assets, and also a business supported ecosystem. So let me just tell you a little bit about the high priority recommendations that the panel had made. First recommendation was to greatly increase the additional laboratory infrastructure to be able to accommodate the surge of growth that we've seen. You'll hear a little bit more with Marty and Brad talking a little bit about what the growth is, but what's clear is that there's a demand that needs to be met. And in order for us to continue our attraction of companies to Montgomery County and also to grow life sciences companies in Montgomery County. Another panel recommendation was to create a global pandemic prevention and biodefense center that can help leverage the strengths that we have in life sciences in Montgomery County, but also to elevate Montgomery County's international leadership in the life sciences. One of the areas also that the panel thought was important was the fact that we have so many local national hospitality headquarters in Montgomery County, from Marriott to Choice to Sodexo to even the REITs, Federal and others. We have 50% of the publicly traded companies in that field in Montgomery County. And so to be able to help nurture and support them, the panel recommended a creation of an incubator accelerator to focus on hospitality tech startups. and allow for this network of hospitality headquarters companies to be supporting this ecosystem. And this is especially important as the hospitality industry tries to recover from the pandemic. There are new engagements that customers now want with contactless check-ins, as well as ways in which customer preferences have been affected by the pandemic. Quantum is another big area that is very significant for Montgomery County. We have the opportunity to build an early lead in the national quantum business development through developing a quantum-ready workforce, creating a regional quantum cluster, as well as a computing curriculum that will allow for Montgomery County to be branded as one of the top destinations for quantum computing and quantum technologies. Quantum is such a nascent technology, but we have the assets that can really seize the opportunity. And what we've seen already with IonQ, which is based out in College Park, the University of Maryland, they were just capitalized at $2 billion and just went public at NASDAQ just 2 weeks ago. So the potential is there, but for us to be able to not just build out a community of quantum, we also want to be able to show our strength so that we can attract quantum companies to Montgomery County and to Maryland. Another area the panel thought was of particularly high importance was making sure that we have an economic development plan that can be able to strengthen the direct linkages with the University of Maryland College Park through the Purple Line. And that offers great opportunities for Montgomery County if we can connect with Montgomery or University of Maryland much more closely, either through infrastructure, through creating student or faculty housing, through research potential, a accelerator along the Purple Line, perhaps in Silver Spring, along Bethesda. So the opportunities there are significant if we can establish those connections. The panel believed also entrepreneurship in startup formation, going from startup to scale up was critical. And so creating a entrepreneurship innovation center to strengthen that ecosystem was a high priority recommendation. Also looking at Montgomery County's business incubator system, which was initially the crown jewel for the state, but other jurisdictions have, I think, been able to better utilize their network for incubators. And so now we need to retrench and also be able to help support with greater entrepreneurship activities, the incubator companies as well, so that they can grow, succeed, and graduate out so we can bring in new members into the incubators. The panel also looked at the necessity for rebranding Montgomery County business reputation. And to do so, they recommended a $1 million marketing partnership initiative to be able to help change the narrative about Montgomery County, and also to be able to seize the opportunities that new industries are presenting, including life sciences, quantum, and others. And then also the panel believed that one of the concerns that had been raised was the ability for the county to meet the needs of its customers, especially on the business economic level. And so that the panel recommended a culture of superior customer service and responsiveness using private sector customer service experts to be able to measure, support, and identify areas that need attention. And then the panel recommended the creation in Montgomery County of a set of private citizens that would form a competitiveness council to be able to look at long-term competitiveness issues and also monitor their progress as well. So those are the high priority recommendations. In the limited time we have left, let me just run through very quickly to give the delegation a sense of the other recommendations as well. We have what the panel believed to be opportunity to win industries in which we can, if we act appropriately and effectively, be able to dominate because we have the assets in key industry sector areas like life sciences, like hospitality tech, and also in quantum technology, and then cybersecurity and other advanced technologies such as robotics as well. But our greatest assets are really our people in Montgomery County. And so the need to expand the talent pipeline, to be able to have greater linkages with industry, to be able to make sure that we have the workforce strengths to be competitive, and also in our attraction opportunities. Companies want to know, are they going to be able to hire people that they're looking for and need? So we also wanted to work much closer with the MCPS on the K through 12 STEM programs to sustain our technology competitiveness in key industry sectors as well. Equity is also a very significant issue for the panel, and one in which they place a high importance, being able to reinforce equity through a shared prosperity. And so they called out for more inclusive economy opportunities in small business, in targeted community investments, as well as to be able to take advantage and leverage one of our unique strengths, which is our international population, to be able to strengthen the global connectedness that can help lead to greater direct foreign investment as well as export potential. And then being able to help support entrepreneurs from startup to scale up is another panel priority. And creating an entrepreneurship innovation center that allows for expanded capital access to key industries. Also to eliminate the entrepreneurial talent gap and to support entrepreneurship innovation through our unique number of federal laboratories, which we need to be able to seize greater advantages towards, because not very many other regions or states around the country have such assets. And then also to be able to reform our incubator network in order to support greater innovation entrepreneurship. And then the fourth element of business supportive ecosystem is one that the panel gave a great deal of attention towards, because they believed that we needed to shift the reputation of Montgomery County from being business wary to business friendly, and having a marketing partnership that can help change that narrative was one recommendation. Also creating and convening showcase summits in Montgomery County on key areas such as life sciences and perhaps quantum would help brand and label Montgomery County as a top destination in the country. And then also developing and supporting customer service and benchmarking customer service with what's being done in the private sector, and improving regulatory reform, creating a competitiveness council of private citizens, and then the panel concluded by saying that all of these recommendations, all 20 recommendations with 33 implementing actions, somebody has to be held accountable. And so that responsibility falls to us at MCDC. So we will report back to the panel as well as to the public about this Connecting the Dots action plan and where we're headed, and also benchmarks that we've had for success. So the Connecting the Dots report concludes with the following paragraph: that we have such great potential in Montgomery County, but we need to reverse the startling data of recent years of stagnant job growth. And we had to shake the reputation of Montgomery County's business perception. And if and when we do so, and we will do so, it will announce to the region, the state, to the nation, and also our international peers that Montgomery County is a top destination to conduct business and to create jobs in the country. And that's what our assets say that we should be doing, and that's what we need to do, is live up to our potential. So to the delegation, we'd be happy to provide the members with the report. You can also find it on our website, thinkmoco.com. And we'd be happy to take any questions or comments you may have. You can either direct the questions to connect@thinkmoco.com or to me or any of the MCDC team. So that is the presentation for the Economic Advisory Panel recommendations. It was released just yesterday, so you may be seeing some press about it from the Washington Business Journal and others. But we intend to be able to take these recommendations and then, in conjunction with the comprehensive economic strategy that the County Council has tasked us to do, which we are completing by the end of the year, we believe that we will have a roadmap forward of the priorities, so that when the delegation is asked, what does Montgomery County stand for? What does Montgomery County prioritize from an economic development perspective? You have that, and We look forward to working with the delegation to be able to execute on a number of these recommendations, because we believe that they're vital for Montgomery County and also for the state. And it goes without saying, and an important note is this as well, Montgomery County is approximately 25% of the state's GDP. Unless Montgomery County can lead the economic recovery, the state cannot recover. And so we intend to fulfill our responsibility to our county, but also to the state as well. So with that, Delegate Chi and Delegate Solomon, thank you. And I'll be happy to entertain any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much, Ben. This was an excellent overview. I didn't realize we're the first presentation that you presented of these recommendations, which are really on point and summarized very well where we need to go in this new economy. I want to first take a moment to recognize my colleague on the Economic Development Committee, Delegate Resnick, and I'm going to ask Chair Ann Kaiser of Ways and Means to ask her question.
Thank you, Chair Chi. I had a question for, first I want to thank Ms. Godwin for her great words in kicking it off. I was going to ask a question of Mr. Wu about in terms of the quantum ready workforce, if you've already contacted or been talking to USG and Montgomery College about this, but now I discover the report came out yesterday. Hold off with that question but I also have a question for Mr. Ali, but are those conversations started with the institutions?
Yes. Now, and the panel was aware of those conversations. So there's no question that the academic institution, Montgomery College and USG, with its 9-member institution body entity, are going to have to play a big role in the efforts regarding quantum, and they're prepared to do so. And also kind of integrate that into the MCPS curriculum as well too, because if we can establish ourselves as a education talent ready workforce for quantum, then we can attract companies to Montgomery County that would naturally gravitate towards Montgomery County looking at quantum, especially, for example, in the areas of the intersection between life sciences and quantum.
And then thank you so much. And Mr. Ali, I loved all that you said, and I was curious maybe about some specific examples, if you had to say. You talked about needing support and if there were specific things that you would prioritize that we need to do, but I'm thinking he's no longer here. So maybe. Yes,
Delegate Kaiser, I believe he gave us a window and we were happy to have him. But I think it was all he could do to just be able to be with us for as long as he was to give remarks. I'm sure he'd be happy to respond to specific questions, and I'm happy to help facilitate that.
Okay, I will send you an email. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe we can have a follow-up call or something. But just to put things, I'm sorry, Delegate Kaiser, are you done with the questions? Okay, just to follow what you just said, in terms of quantum computing and work ready, I see Delegate Resnick has a hand. What I learned about quantum computing, which is new to Maryland and it's new period, that Maryland has a chance to be a national and global leader on this because we're already leading Cambridge and Harvard region in our quantum computing capacity. And that's led by the University of Maryland system. So it's very exciting. It is our chance to really dominate this field, and things moving fast, faster. So that's why we need to act now. All right, Delegate
Chief, if I could just add to that point.
Yeah.
We do have great assets in Montgomery County, but we're not alone in the state of Maryland or even within the region. And so that's one of the reasons why the panel also recommended that we create a regional cluster for quantum, because if we can attract people or label the greater Washington region as a quantum epicenter or quantum corridor, then we believe then that will go a great way for us from a business development attraction perspective to then position people to Montgomery County. And so it's not just utilizing our assets, but also the state's assets and the region's assets as well.
Thank you. I'm going to turn to Delegate Resnick. You're muted.
I'm muted. There you go. Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate it. And I want to first apologize for being late, trying to juggle a couple things at the same time. So, Mr. Wu, I apologize, Ms. Godwin, for missing your presentation entirely. If what I'm about to ask you all addressed, just say that and I'll try and get the information somewhere else. Something that I did hear Mr. Wu say about combating perception in Montgomery County for the business community. And in fact, we do have many great assets, which you highlighted. One thing that I know has been a particular thorn in the side of our current county executive is that when one of those perceptions is financial in nature, that taxation and business regulation in Montgomery County is overly burdensome compared to our neighbors in Virginia and other parts of Maryland. My understanding from seeing research that both his office has done and my office has done, that in fact, the burden is not more so or overburdened than other jurisdictions. In fact, it's about the same. It's just manifests in different ways. And so as part of that effort to fight perception, are you having those conversations with businesses? Are you making comparisons to the tax burden that they face in, say, Fairfax or Arlington versus here, and demonstrating that in fact it's not that different? Or what are you hearing from those businesses if you are making that comparison?
Well, there is a clear perception that Montgomery County is overtaxed, and by extension the state, because the county. The businesses that are impacted in the county also are impacted by state law and regulation as well. The county executive believes that if we take a holistic approach, that Montgomery County is on par with our regional peers. He has a study that is being conducted through JLL that he believes will reinforce that point. And he is looking forward to unveiling that sometime in the coming weeks or months. That will be able to help at least entertain that discussion.
Well, if I may add to that, this is a complex issue in response to Delegate Resnick's question, which you also raised, I think, last year, because we are all frustrated with that stubborn perception, and all of us here want to help in whatever way we can, right? But it's not just a taxation issue. I understand the county executive is commissioning a study. Even if the numbers strongly indicate that Montgomery County is actually regionally competitive in our taxes holistically, the fact that we have, let's say 8.25% for corporate income tax, and Virginia has 6%, like we're on par with DC, right? So DC and Maryland are not going to attract the growing and larger employers as compared to Virginia, because 2.25% is a major chunk of change for growing businesses. So that dynamic on top of, customer service experience, overall attitude, and many more hoops that businesses have to jump through at the local county level and maybe the state level, and compliance issues. I think it's just both perception and personal experiences on top of taxation. So it's not just one. And for most businesses who are not corporations, they still pay personal property taxes, which is another layer of burden for them, and business filing fees, right? So all these things as one after another that add to that whole perception issue. It's not just one issue,
I would like to add something, Chair Chi.
Please.
It is very few CEOs in some other state are going to read a report commissioned by any county executive in any of the 3,000 counties in the United States. What they're going to do is ask their accountant, where should I place my headquarters? What will it cost me, the CEO, and top management? And he or she, that accountant will advise that CEO on those kinds of factors first. So to look at the aggregate, and frankly, there have been lots of studies done over the past many years I've been in my position, which aggregate, it adds everything up. But that's not how people experience taxes. They look at income tax because that's a thing that they can figure out sitting in California. They'll look at certain things. They don't know for sure if somebody's going to live on a 20-acre horse farm or a 2-bedroom condo. Those would be very different. But when they look at but there are some certainties, which is around compensation, those kinds of things, and corporate taxes, as our chair just said. So I'm happy to talk to you more about this, but I will say that I've observed for many years how people make decisions. They don't see taxes the same way, even if we just add them all up and get to the same total. That's been done many times over the years. I don't think it's persuasive for an executive. An executive is going to be persuaded by some data, but not that aggregate number. It might make somebody feel good to say it's just as bad over there, but if people don't feel that way. And the second thing is we have to be very careful about something else. I don't know how you quantify it, but it's a tax on time. When a business is asked to make exactly the same filing to the state of Maryland that they make to the federal government, and this is a land of federal contractors, and they're on different schedules, and Maryland requires 20 pages, and it's completely different than what the federal government, why wouldn't we just adopt something simpler? If it's good enough for the federal government, why can't it be good enough? I could go on. There are a million, like death by 1,000 cuts. I mean, it's a tax on time, or as I like to say, if something's expensive but worth it, people are fine with it. But if you torture them, they remember that. They remember how you made them feel. So anyhow, more on that another time over coffee, perhaps.
Can I move on to the next part of
Yes.
the program? Or Delegate Resident, you have a response?
I just want a very quick follow-up. if
Okay,
I may.
sure.
This fascinates me. Thank you, Gigi, and I appreciate that. And I completely understand the concept of tax on time, or the way you're putting it, tax on time, but what you're really saying is, bureaucratic red tape, and I get that. As far as sort of doing the math and doing the bottom line, I really would like to understand, and maybe this is worth during a cup of coffee some point to really get into the weeds on it. But my understanding, and I'm in the private sector, I'm in federal contracting. If when you get to the bottom line, the numbers are the same, you get to the bottom line and the numbers are the same. I am fascinated by this notion that some dollars are more expensive than other dollars, right? Because when you're making a profit or you're paying a tax bill, whatever you end up doing, at the end of the day, the numbers are going to end up the same. And if that's not the case, then I'm fascinated why an executive would care more about one tax versus another if at the end of the day they're making the same money. Is it based on their own personal issues? Like maybe the company's paying more in taxes in Virginia, but I'm paying less personally, so that's where I want to go? Or is there some other factor involved? Because that's the part I'm missing.
Well, I would like to move on to our program, but these are very important points I think would warrant some follow-up specific discussions. And on that note, I'm going to jump the gun a little bit by saying I really hope Delegate Kaiser or someone will continue to introduce bills to have a tax commission, a statewide tax commission, to actually holistically look at taxation in Maryland and how they work with county level taxes, because sometimes these layering up is also an issue on top of the administrative process. So, but we do need to move on, and thank you for the robust discussion. I'm going to ask the American Gene Technologies if Mr. Jeff Galvin is here. Oh, yes, there you are. I still remember visiting your wonderful company in my district and the Shady Grove Life Sciences Park. And since then, I just can't keep up with your wonderful news one after another, so welcome. You are muted. Jeff, you are muted. Please unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you very much, Delegate Chi, or Chairwoman Chi. It seems like I've known you forever since I randomly sat down next to you. I think you were a local Montgomery County representative at the time.
The Bio Convention, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it seems like a lifetime ago because, on one hand, it seems like yesterday. On the other hand, when you think about everything that's happened since then, it just seems like forever. And I don't know, I was invited here by Delegate Solomon. Am I to go straight into my discussion? Is that okay with you, Delegate Solomon? Okay. So first of all, I've been listening to the presentation so far, and we are an amazing place. I mean, I think part of it is the amazing people that we have associated with this. When I look at the screen today, I just see all these friends that I've had forever. Ben and Marty and Brad and the amazing amount of contact that I've had with government officials here. I know they say that all politics is local. I tend to watch the national news because they seem to have an amazing ability to destroy all the local environments from Washington, D.C. But I also see that there's a lot of important things going on, and we get great advantages here in Montgomery County because we are so good at living in the shadow of Washington, D.C. and getting so much of the good aspects of all of the technology investments and all of the government investments. I know there are something like 71 or 72 different government institutes within Maryland. And I think that, this is something that a lot of states don't enjoy because that really keeps the lights on here. But to me, the question is, what will the future be? And I think we will end up reorienting our thinking at some point to really being a cutting edge, high tech area. I think we're starting to do that with quantum computing. And I think that we've seen a lot of organic growth recently in the life sciences sector. And I think that, one of the things that I want to, really emphasize here is that the life sciences sector has potential to bring about $500 billion a year of business into this area. And how am I getting that number? Well, if you look at the latest method for developing drugs, gene and cell therapy, what you find is even very conservative places like Goldman Sachs are predicting that this is a $5 trillion industry. And in fact, I think that they're grossly underestimating it. I think that if you look at healthcare versus other types of spending, healthcare is much more important. Would you rather feel good or would you rather drive a better car? Would you rather, have 10 years to live and drive a Lamborghini for a couple of weeks, or would you rather would you rather have a Lamborghini to drive for a couple of weeks or live 10 more years driving your Toyota? I think that the choice is really clear, and the economy is huge. And I think that the only problem that we've had with biotech and with pharma in the past is that it's the very, very slow rate of creating new products that actually give value to humankind. And if you look at typical drug development, it might take 10 to 15 years to develop a new blockbuster drug, and it might cost $1 to $2 billion to develop it. So there's very few companies that can do it. It forms a natural, incredible barrier to entry, and as a result, the innovation is slow. Drug companies would prefer to go ahead and sell their existing drugs for as long as possible until they're off of patent, which can be decades with patent extension, than to go ahead and spend the money to obsolete what they have already. And one of the things that we're seeing is that the innovation amongst the large pharma companies, even though we enjoy some presence of large pharma companies like GSK in this area and others, and AstraZeneca, the rate of innovation is slow, and it's not going to be something that's going to disrupt this entire industry, and it's not going to change the economics really quickly for this area or in a really profound way. Well, gene and cell therapy is going to completely break that whole business model. The reason being is, imagine that you could develop a cure for any of 7,000 monogenic diseases. These are monogenic diseases, like an example would be spinal muscular atrophy. You're probably aware that in Ohio, a company called Avexis came up with a cure for spinal muscular atrophy. They sold it to Novartis for $8 billion. That's a nice check size. So one disease Novartis thought was worth $8 billion. I think they way overpaid for it, but it certainly was worth $1 billion. And that thing was developed in record time, but it actually wasn't developed as fast as it could be, because if the industry continues to develop the way that it is, those monogenic diseases will be able to be cured in 2 years and $20 million. At $20 million, there's not a single monogenic disease on earth that is not worth curing. Even if you've only got 1,000 patients, think about it, some of these diseases are blindness or crippling or whatever, you know, the cost of people dying is significant in the United States. People don't go home and blow up at home and expire. No, they die in the hospitals after years and years of treatment, and it costs a fortune. And they live a really low quality of life. But we can completely turn that on its head by curing these diseases, and gene and cell therapy finally gives us access to that. Gives us access to that because we can finally go down into DNA and reprogram it for powerful changes in the body that bring cures to diseases and just improve life in general. Now, American Gene Technologies is really on the cutting edge of this, really in the center of this entire revolution. I'm kind of the poster child for people that you want to attract to this area, by the way, because I grew up in Boston, and then I spent 30 years in Silicon Valley, and I did not even know Montgomery County existed. But now that I'm here, I realize that Montgomery County is one of the greatest places on earth. And I think it's a holistic thing. And I think as we go out there and we try to attract other people in here, we need to look at the big picture, and we need to learn how to market that in a soundbite. You know, we need to go out to Silicon Valley. We need to go out to Boston. We need to tell them there's a better life for you here in Montgomery County, here in Maryland. And I think that we can do that if we get our focus off of, you know, some of the things like the exact tax rates and stuff like that. You know, this is a great place for business, but even better, it's a great place for life. And I think that that's going to attract a lot of people who will then bring the innovation with them. The tax rate doesn't matter when you're growing a new entrepreneurial venture. You're not paying taxes. But once you get to the point where you've got money, where do you want to stay? You want to stay in Montgomery County, because you can just walk from your house over to a park, no matter where you live in this place, in this area. If you want to live on 20 acres of farmland, you can have it. Short drive from your office. You want to live, you know, in a place that's got tons and tons of restaurants, you can live here in Montgomery County, you know, and walk to the restaurants and walk to the metro. And, you know, this is a really, really great place for lifestyle. And that's what attracted me. You know, I came here by accident. I met somebody at National Institutes of Health who showed me viral vectors, and my head practically exploded. I came from Silicon Valley, and I spent, you know, 2 decades developing a career and retiring in personal computers, software, internet, IT, and apps. And one of the things I recognize about viral vectors and our ability to go ahead and modify DNA is that this is the software industry for the next 100 years, creating value in healthcare. And it dwarfs the computer industry. It dwarfs the computer industry because of what I said earlier. You'd much rather live healthy and happy than to have a lot of material things. And that's why the computer industry, although it's, you know, a great industry, and you know, it does give us a lot of value in terms of entertainment and business and so forth, and even gene and cell therapy is leveraging computers in order to accelerate it. It's only $3.5 trillion. Healthcare is $10.5 trillion. Goldman Sachs says that gene and cell therapy alone will be $5 trillion. I think it'll be at least 10. And we're in a position to get an outsized portion of that because of all of the basic research, because of the amazing workforce training that we get in all of our institutions around here, because of the emphasis on the fundamentals that Montgomery County has made, and because Maryland has made in education. I think that that is what allowed AGT to grow here. And it's also what brought us to the point where we're on the eve of curing HIV. And I don't know how many of you have been following us, but we're in a clinical trial right now where we've already treated the 3rd patient with an autologous cell therapy that is one and done cure for HIV. Now, we still have to prove that it works, but we have a lot of optimism in that area. I have a lot of confidence in that area because of the preclinical data that was validated by NIAID. So NIAID has co-authored an article in Molecular Therapy, a peer-reviewed journal, that indicates that this treatment, this one-time treatment, you draw blood, you process it, you put it back into the person, they are permanently immune to HIV. They cannot spread HIV, they cannot get AIDS, and they can never be reinfected. Can you imagine what that would feel like to somebody that's taking a daily pill, feeling like crap and hiding from the world the fact that they have HIV? Can Can you imagine what a fundamental change in their life that would be? But also it would be cheaper. It would reduce the cost of an HIV patient from about $3 million over their lifetime to $500,000 in a one and done treatment. So this is good for everyone. Now we're 3 patients in already on an 18 patient study where we expect to get both safety and efficacy. So we may get first human efficacy by next summer. We may be able to demonstrate that people can throw away their antiretroviral medication and be normal, like literally have no secret to tell anybody and no pain of daily nausea, diarrhea, fatigue, no early aging, bone density issues, osteoporosis, brittle bones, liver, kidney, heart disease, and extra cancers that are really the cost of HIV. That low quality of lifestyle puts them in and out of the hospital all the time, and that's where the expense is. So you can imagine that here in Montgomery County, we may soon be able to start to brag about the fact that we've done the biggest thing since curing polio. HIV is that big. It's fundamental to 1.2 million Americans and all the other Americans that love those people, which should be all of us, by the way. I'll get on my soapbox there a little bit. But it's also 38 million people globally. And this, it could be, an amazing thing that we could tout that happened right here in Montgomery County because of all the amazing factors. It's the lifestyle, it's the workforce, it's just the environment. It's all the government investment that happens here. What was it that birthed the gene and cell therapy industry? Why is Rockville the epicenter of viral vectors? It's because the Human Genome Project, $3 or $6 billion, depending on how you want to account for it, did something that wasn't really that useful by itself, but it was that investment that birthed this tremendous just explosion of trained PhDs that understood how to sequence, how to synthesize, how to do knockout experiments, how to start to propel all of the information and growth in our understanding of genetics and systems biology, how our bodies work, and all of these vectors and things like that gave rise to the idea of going in there and making fundamental changes, teeny little tweaks to our DNA that can have profound healthcare effects like curing HIV. Now, let me just tell you one more thing before I go about how AGT and I look at this revolution and why Montgomery County can really benefit so
Excuse
greatly.
me, Jeff, let me interrupt you for a second. Could you just take a minute to wrap it up because we are behind in our schedule? Thank you so much.
Yeah. So curing HIV might just be the tip of the iceberg. AGT didn't set out to cure any particular disease. It set out to become the Microsoft of this software revolution, to create an operating system, a set of combinable tools and components that you can mix and match to cure a myriad of diseases. And you might understand just intuitively that there's not much difference between HIV and hepatitis B. They're both chronic viral infections, and HTLV and herpes and human papillomavirus and Epstein-Barr and CMV. And these are even bigger markets than HIV, believe it or not. Hepatitis B is critically important. But our platform extends beyond that. Components that are going to be critical in bringing down the cost and time in curing 7,000 monogenic diseases that are currently responsible for $2 to $4 trillion of spending in healthcare right now. Palliative treatments just to keep these folks comfortable. And then we have assets that are in the immuno-oncology area that are absolute blockbusters. And what will we do? We will license them out. Why do we live near why is there so much money from the federal government, and why is it so good to be in Montgomery County if you do federal business? Because you're close to the federal government. And we're going to do the same thing with AGT. We're going to go ahead and we're going to offer these components out to the world. And where will they come? Right here in our backyard, to develop all of those drugs, because we can't do 10,000 diseases on our own. 10,000 diseases is going to add up to new numbers of dollars that are unforeseen, that have never been seen before in any economy. DNA Valley, the triangle from here to Baltimore to Frederick, is going to bypass Silicon Valley. And I think that we need to think about how we're going to manage that growth. But I think that this is inevitable. I believe that AGT will lead that. But even if we don't, it doesn't matter, because nature determines where we're going. And gene and cell therapy is here to stay. Gene and cell therapy is epicentered here. Gene and cell therapy is going to be just that big. And this is something that's worth putting in the back of all of our minds and figuring out how can we prepare the ground for this incredible growth that we're going to experience. And thank you for
so
letting
much.
me run over.
No, thank you, Jeff. You got us all very excited, not only about gene and cell therapy, but the reason I remembered you and it had such a strong impression of our first encounter was because here was this biotech executive who couldn't stop talking about how great Montgomery County was.
Yeah.
And I said, where did he come from? He said, oh, California, of course. Everything looks affordable in Montgomery County.
Yeah.
Everything is relative and in context, but we are competing with Virginia. So we want to keep you here and support your growth.
We're not going anywhere else. Why would you move out? If you don't mind me just saying, why do people move out of Silicon Valley? Because Silicon Valley has become so overcrowded and so miserable to live in. That's why they leave.
Yeah.
If we keep Montgomery County like this, no one will leave. They always threaten to leave. California, they passed an extra tax. Everybody was like, well, all the rich people and all the makers will leave. Guess where they live? Orange County in Silicon Valley. It doesn't happen.
Thank you.
We got it.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to turn over to my great colleague, Vice Chair Jared Solomon. Delegate Solomon, I know he's very excited about your company and about the whole, life sciences biotech cluster. Delegate Solomon, please.
Thank you, Delegate Chi, Chair Chi. Jeff, I just wanted to say, we were really happy to have you here today, and I think your company is a great example of sort of the partnership that, the research came out of NIH, why we have the resources here. And I think, your work in advocating for education spending in Annapolis and your work with Shady Grove shows just sort of, again, the ecosystem that we can build here. So I'm glad you were able to join us. Thank you, Chair Chi.
Thank you for arranging for Mr. Jeff Galvin to talk to our group. I would like to turn over to the panel, which is Dr. Martin Rosendale, who represents the Maryland Tech Council, an important champion and leader in growing Maryland's bio and tech companies. I know he has a panel with Brad Stewart, right? Marty, I'm going to turn over to you.
Great, thank you, Delegate Chi. And actually, first I want to correct a misconception. While I am an engineer and a microbiologist, I'm not a doctor, so I want to make sure that that's clear to everybody. So Brad, why don't you go ahead and get started in this conversation? I think we can keep it pretty high level and maybe make up some of the time that we've lost.
Thanks, Marty. I appreciate it, Delegate Chi, and I appreciate the invitation. So for those of you who don't know me, and many of you do, my name is Brad Stewart. I'm responsible for business development at Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation. My passion is in life science. My experience is in life science. And it's a very important subject for me here in Maryland and Montgomery County. I spent the last 25 years of my life here in Montgomery County running life sciences companies, typically those on a global scale, and working very hard to try and see Maryland succeed in the life sciences industry and become a global player in the industry. I've been very fortunate in that over the last decade plus to work with the Maryland Tech Council, and for the last, I think, about 6 years or so to chair the Maryland Life Sciences Organization. So I hope my perspectives are very well based in what's happening here in Maryland and Montgomery County, but also very passionate in wanting to see us succeed here. For us, this has been a very difficult year during the pandemic, but life sciences has been an incredible bright spot in the state of Maryland. It's been one of the industries that's actually growing. People are not only continuing to stay employed, but employment is growing rapidly in life sciences. And approximately 75% of those life sciences companies are located in Montgomery County. So everything that happens on a state basis to help support life sciences really helps to support life sciences in Montgomery County and helps to support our local economy. And I think most of you understand how significant those jobs are when they come into Montgomery County. Not only the massive capital expenditures that get spent on new facilities, new buildings, but most of the projects that we work on are companies that have an average salary of about $125,000 a year, which is significant. To give you an idea of how significant that is, it's about the same number in the state of Maryland for an average salary in life sciences, which averages $128,000. That's $60,000 a year more than the average job in Maryland. So the life sciences industry is paying close to double what the average jobs are paying in the state of Maryland. So this really is an incredible opportunity to transform the economy in the state of Maryland and the lifestyle and opportunities available to our citizens. So for that, I'll just tell you the two things that I get asked most frequently by companies that are looking to locate in Montgomery County. The first question is, can you physically accommodate me? Do you have buildings, or will you have buildings where I can locate my facilities? Of course, how quickly can I occupy those? And the second question is always workforce. Where will those employees come from that I need to grow this? As Jeff mentioned and other mentioned, workforce is a huge challenge here and everywhere. And I think it's a critical issue that this group can really focus on and make a significant impact in the short term. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Marty, and he can share some of the Maryland Tech Council's research and outputs from that.
Great. Thank you, Brad. So just quickly, the Maryland Tech Council, as I think you all know, we're the industry trade association that represents all of the technology and life science companies throughout the state. The conversation today is about life sciences. My background, as I mentioned a minute ago, is in microbiology and biotechnology. I've been the CEO of 2 Maryland and Montgomery County based biotech companies prior to my role at the Maryland Tech Council. One of the things that we did last year, coming out of the pandemic and looking at the growth of the industry in Maryland and Montgomery County, is we commissioned the Milken Institute to do a study to get a snapshot of exactly where we are today and what we need to improve and to grow from here. And one thing I want to point out, it's been mentioned repeatedly this morning, but I'm going to say it again. The world really does depend on what happens in Maryland and in Montgomery County with respect to life sciences and so much that we do. We have an amazing life science and biotechnology industry here, and as this Milken study points out, it employs 54,000 people in those very good, very high-paying jobs that Brad was talking about. And between 2015 and 2020, we did see growth. The industry grew here in Maryland at about a rate of 7.5%, 7.4%. But when we compare that to other industry clusters around the country, Massachusetts in that same period, their life sciences industry grew at 58%. And North Carolina, their life sciences industry grew at 38%. So there's clearly an opportunity for us to do even better. There's an opportunity for our life sciences industry to grow faster. You know, the things that Jeff was talking about, the fact that cell and gene therapy is so critically important here. I mean, the human genome was sequenced here by the NIH and Human Genome Sciences. That work was completed in 2006. That's what started the cell and gene therapy and the tremendous talent that we have here in Maryland and in Montgomery County. And so we have an opportunity to grow and advance that industry. Interestingly, when you look at the biomanufacturing industry in Maryland, it grew at the fastest rate of any industry cluster across the country. Over that same 5-year time frame, it grew at 31%. So we're seeing this massive growth in biomanufacturing in Maryland that is the anticipated culmination of those development companies in cell and gene therapy. As they become commercial, as they become clinical and then commercial, that need for biomanufacturing is definitely a part of that evolution. So in looking at these opportunities and that growth in biomanufacturing, by the way, it also creates a challenge, and that's a workforce and talent challenge, because we have to fill those jobs. That's a lot of jobs that we have to make sure that we have the talent and the opportunity to fill those. And so many of the conclusions from this Milken study directly support what you heard from Ben this morning and the study that he presented from the Economic Advisory Panel. For instance, on the talent front, they're recommending collaboration between academia and industry and other institutions to support the development of the talent and leadership that's necessary. They're also recommending that we have outreach, that we reach out to the public schools, that we reach out to the younger people, we reach out to the underserved and underestimated populations in the state, and make sure that they're aware of these amazing opportunities and these amazing jobs going forward. And third, that we support dedicated training programs and the facilities for those training programs in advanced biomanufacturing so that we can provide the appropriate training that industry needs in order to focus on that. And then the second area where they provided recommendations is in developing the entrepreneurial ecosystem. So in addition to the talent, if you think about, what could we do to grow the life sciences industry even faster here? Well, again, you saw some of it in the report that Ben shared this morning. We need more lab space. We need more wet lab space and places for these companies to land and to build and to develop their products. And the more that it can be, shared co-working space, incubators, so that they get, peer assistance, they get coaching and mentorship, the better, because it'll help those companies advance. And then we also need to explore the viability of looking at existing commercial infrastructure. Where can we adapt buildings and infrastructure that we already have and produce biomanufacturing opportunities? Can we, one of the things that our small to mid-sized companies are looking for is a co-op environment, if you will, for biomanufacturing, where they can go in and they can lease time, they can lease space and produce clinical size lots of their material, so that they don't have to pay the expense of a CDMO or of building out their own manufacturing in their own facility. And these are all things that we can do. The opportunity to provide the support. I know the legislature last year passed matching grant for SBIR, matching funds for SBIR and STTR grants. Well, that's something that, so this year we have the opportunity to fund that match now. And that kind of collaboration, that kind of cooperation is something that's really important. Now, the Tech Council, in combination with industry, academia, and others, we've put together a plan. And we've submitted that plan to the Economic Development Administration division of the Federal Department of Commerce as a Build Back Better grant opportunity. A coalition came together that we led that consists of the university system of USM, the University System of Maryland, coordinated through USG, and I'll explain why that's important in just a minute. It includes Montgomery Community College. It includes essentially the Tech Council. We have 520 members. It includes our life sciences membership in that coalition. It includes the Maryland Manufacturers Extension Program. It includes Medco. It includes TEDCO, all focused on these recommendations. And the proposal that we've put together builds out the Maryland BioHub. Now, the BioHub we've already initiated, thanks to funding from the Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation. We were able to initiate building out the BioHub, which is focused on workforce development and cooperation and coordination between industry and academia to facilitate that workforce development and leadership talent that we need. And in addition to that, this grant application includes all of the pieces that you heard from Ben and that I just mentioned: the laboratory space that we need, the co-working environment and wet lab space that we need, the manufacturing facilities, the modular manufacturing facilities that we need to support manufacturing. It includes a series of projects on assisting companies with access to the international capital markets, getting investment bankers and investment relations firms involved. So it's a very elaborate set of projects, but we've already begun based on the funding that I just mentioned. And I'm really happy to let you know, we've been in conversations with Senator Van Hollen, who informed us on Monday afternoon that he has put into the appropriations bill a congressional directed funding for the Maryland Tech Council to support these projects in the amount of $2.45 million. Now, assuming that we get beyond working with a continuing resolution and we actually get the appropriations bill passed, that funding will be provided to us to facilitate the further development of the BioHub and that initial focus on workforce. But we also need to focus on the other pieces that Ben brought up: the laboratory space, the manufacturing space, and those other pieces as well. And this is all about collaboration and cooperation between industry, academia, government, the not-for-profit organizations. And I can tell you the coalition that has come together behind this Build Back Better grant, I know that's a long shot to get that grant, But this coalition that has come together is nothing short of phenomenal. The people that are interested in working together, that want to solve these issues and move this forward, are an amazing group of people. And I really believe we can get this done. We're moving on it. We've already formed the BioHub. You can find our BioHub Pathways website, the link to it on our website, mdtechcouncil.com. And you can also find the Milken report and study and recommendations on that website as well. So I hope that was fast enough, Delegate Chi, to make up a little bit of time.
Thank you, thank you. It was a wonderful overview, and just like what Ben presented earlier, was super timely. I know this is a brand new initiative, and I'm thrilled that Senator Van Hollen has committed this appropriation funding. And one point you mentioned I want to highlight is TEDCO now is charged with administering this matching grant program that we passed 2 years in a row. So when I asked them, are companies started applying for this grant program? And he said, we haven't got money yet. So we looked into that. And now I have two colleagues on this call, Vice Chair Delegate Solomon and Delegate Resnick, both serve on Appropriations Committee. I just want to highlight that it's important that we commit the funding, which is only a 1.3 million that we passed. But it's one thing to pass the bill, to another to actually, give businesses what they promised to them so they can line up and apply. Because I do want to see whether they actually think this is important. From everything they told us, this would fill the gap funding and fund at least 30 businesses each year with that $1.3 million. So I hope TEDCO can, actually get what they promised and actually do their job. Thank you very much, Marty. We have a few minutes left, and Ben, you want to quickly tell us what quantum computing is and how we can help? You're muted.
Okay. You want me to give a dissertation in 20 seconds?
Yes.
Well, just to say that the opportunity to win industries that the panel had recommended, that we should marshal our assets and focus towards to really allow for Montgomery County to be a national and international leader in life sciences and quantum and also in hospitality tech. Those are in addition to cybersecurity and then other robotics and other advanced technologies. But those are the three that they called out specifically. The reason why quantum is so important is because quantum is such a nascent technology that's going to be ubiquitous throughout a number of industry sectors. And it is the future. And it's not just an imperative for Montgomery County for us to try to seize a business development opportunity, but also there's a national imperative here. And that's why the presidential administration is converging on trying to coalesce an initiative around quantum. And if we don't seize this as a nation, we may fall behind globally. And this has severe repercussions, not just on the business development side, but it also impacts national security and also our global competitiveness. So this is our attempt in Montgomery County to marshal our assets, which are many in the quantum space, and be able to help us ourselves, not just as a county and a region, but also nationally. And so that's why the quantum imperative is so great and such a call out for us. We have NIST, in Montgomery County, and I was fortunate enough to have worked back in my previous incarnations with Bill Phillips, who won a Nobel Prize. Also, we had Eric Cornell, also won a Nobel Prize in quantum-related activities. Bill is now over at the University of Maryland helping up establish their presence, and that is why University of Maryland is one of the academic leaders, arguably stronger than any of the usual suspects between MIT and Stanford and others. And so we've seen great successes, already a recognition from the private sector and venture capital about the potential commercial applications for quantum with IonQ's $2 billion capitalization. And the fact, as I mentioned, that they just went public 2 weeks ago over at NASDAQ. And so we see the opportunity, if we can label Montgomery County, brand Montgomery County as this quantum corridor, work regionally to be able to help support this effort, and then have that workforce and education curriculum component, then companies will want to invest in here. We see major companies, some of the Fortune 100 companies that know that they need to get into the quantum space, that they are looking to make investments. And so this is why this area is so important according to the panel's recommendation. And also that niche that we can have with this intersection between quantum and life sciences is so significant because quantum technology, quantum computing can help revolutionize all the great work that Jeff is doing and a number of the Montgomery County life sciences companies are doing. And if we can help support that niche, also get our companies to look forward thinking into quantum. We had a conversation that Marty and I had with several of the life sciences companies about quantum. And these are some of the top life sciences companies in the county. And only half of them said that they were thinking about quantum because for them, quantum wasn't ready enough for them to develop a business model. But we are asking them to start thinking about it now so that we can seize this opportunity and being able to have that echo between the county, the state. I think that can really go a long way towards making Maryland and Montgomery County this real leader and to be the quantum quarter that we think we can be.
Thank you, Ben. We are actually at the time, but I would like to offer, after hearing all these amazing subjects, we still have a lot to digest and understand what legislators need to do, right, or not do, So we may need to find some other time to do deeper dive after we have a chance to look at, the Milken Institute report commissioned by the Maryland Tech Council and the MCDC's economic panels report and all that. But for the next couple of minutes, I do want to offer my colleagues any opportunities for questions they may have on top of their minds. Anyone has some last minute questions? Vice Chair Solomon, Delegate Solomon, please.
Thank you, Chair Chi. I just wanted to sort of reinforce your comments. I think between the folks in our delegation, beyond even just committees, the folks who are here, I think, we represent a lot of different facets that oversee different parts of the ecosystem of state government that could help bring all this together, from the university system to the Department of Commerce to obviously Chair Kaiser with the tax system. And I think it would be really helpful for us maybe in the future, as Delegate Chi said, to sort of sit down and maybe map out a lot of the plans that you all have and how we can help and what, various levers through the appropriations process, through legislation that we can all work on to get this to fruition. So would be really happy to partner on that.
That's a very important point, because if you look at just the 6 of us on this call right now, at this moment, we represent 5 different committees. And many of us have direct interactions with business matters or economic matters. Delegate Solomon's vice chair of the subcommittee on appropriations related to education and economic development. And of course, I serve on Economic Matters Committee that oversees business regulation, among many other things. Delegate Resnick is also on appropriations, and of course, Chair Kaiser's Ways and Means Committee is super important on taxation and many related issues. And I want to point out Delegate Kelly's HGO, Health and Government Operations Committee, has a broad scope of oversight over government operations related to government contracting, for example, procurement matters for small businesses. So economic matters are dispersed across many committees. That's why it's important to engage legislators consistently, and we look forward to our next briefing, and especially any ideas you have in between. I think next briefing is November 10th. Is Rebecca still on? Rebecca, you want to tell us about the next briefing?
Yes, 1 second.
Sure. Sorry to put you on the spot.
Oh, no problem.
So we'll focus on locally serving small businesses for the next briefing, which are super important to Montgomery County's economy and our everyday life and a convenience, of course. And we never want to forget those local small businesses. So we want to have a separate panel.
The next meeting is planned for November 16th at 10.
16th, I'm sorry. I don't know why I said November 10th. Okay, 16th, Tuesday morning, 16th is also at the 10 o'clock You will get more information on that later. Okay.
Delegate Chi, if I may, just quickly before we go. We will work on more information to provide you, summary information, and some suggestions on how you might be able to help. In the meantime, as you're talking with our institutions of higher education, any little push that you can help them be more responsive to industry would be great. The reason that we like working with USG is because they cater to a very diverse population of non-traditional students, which is exactly what we need in this industry. And the more we can move the rest of our academic institutions in that direction, the better.
Great. That is an excellent suggestion that I also heard from other entrepreneurs. They want our institutions to act more like a MIT, closer partnership with private partners, breaking down these silos and all of that. So with that, I want to thank everyone, my committee members and my colleagues and business executives, and all of you for taking the time, all our partners, MCDC, Maryland Tech Council, Chamber of Commerce, for your great work, not only engaging us, but educating us with what's important to our economy and how we can help. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day.